Lawn Cut and Trim. So today, this is actually the first time, no, not the first time, this is the second time I'd ever mowed this property. The lawn is a little bit of a weird one. The front yard's on a pretty steep hill that you probably won't really be able to tell in this video. And then the backyard's also a little funky. I thought it'd be interesting to watch me mow it, so here you go. But actually, what I wanted to talk to you guys about is I noticed something weird with my financial numbers. I had talked to you guys maybe a week or two ago and said that the numbers were looking really great. That financially, I was on pace to do better in April of 2020 than I was April of 2019, and I thought that was interesting. And then I started looking at the numbers and seeing how they're going to play out, because as of this recording, there's about a week left in the month of April. And I realized I actually am set to make about $700-800 less this month compared to this month last year. I was confused by that. I was trying to figure out what was the deal. So I started diving into the numbers, because I was like, well, I must have done a lot of landscape jobs last April that I'm not doing this April. And I looked, and no, that's not the case. I only did I did like 2 hours worth of spring cleanup last April, and I bid some stuff, but I didn't get anything. So that was a little confusing. So I was like, okay, well, what's the deal? So then I was like, well, maybe I mowed more lawns last April compared to this April. Check that. That's not the case either. I'm actually on pace to, assuming nothing weird happens in the next week, which it could, because of, we got a ton of rain in the forecast, but I'm on pace to mow more lawns this April than I was last April. I think last April I mowed like 170. I'm in for the month of April, which is, April tends to be a slower month. But this April, I think I'm going to be over 200 for the month. So I was like, what in the world? It's so weird. And so I was like looking at it, it just wasn't making sense to me. And then it occurred to me, there is something different this year. I got a lot more prepayments this year than I've ever gotten before. I think I'd have to double check the numbers. I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I think I got triple the prepayments for the season than I did the year before. And so I think that actually accounts for the drop in revenue, because it's not like a significant drop. I started off stronger at the beginning of the season, but the beginning of the month, but by the end of the month, 2019 is kicking 2020's butt. So, but I think that's what it is. I think it's because there was a lot of prepayments. So you figure if I had 15 prepaying customers, some of them are bi-weekly, some of them are weekly, but you figure that's probably, 40 or 50 cuts that I got paid for in April. And so they're not paying now, and if you want to extrapolate that out, 40, 50 cuts, that's $1,400, $1,500, probably more than that in revenue. So that's where the missing money went. Where I thought this part of this job actually is kind of interesting. I decided to drive on their sidewalk to get into the backyard this time, and it was not as graceful as I'd hoped it would be. But anyway, I think that's what's making up is the reason for the lack of revenue, even with there being more work, is because a pretty big chunk of it got paid for in January. So that's why I'm not seeing that money now. So, I guess that's a good thing and a bad thing. If you were to extrapolate it out, if those folks hadn't prepaid, then I would be significantly ahead this April as compared to last April. Because the crazy thing is, my season, my numbers, the amount of total revenue we had this time last year compared to this time this year, it's not even close. We are so far ahead. But it's because of all those prepayments, and then me staying a lot busier in the month of staying a lot busier in January, February, and March compared to previous years, where I usually don't stay that busy at all. See how this yard is kind of the backyard is not a lot to it. It's just you gotta lots of turns, lots of windy, not a lot of straightaways. I actually kind of enjoy mowing yards like this because it's a little bit of a challenge to try and figure out the most efficient way to get it done. I think I do pretty good on this property. I mean, shoot, the whole mowing. I'm recording the entire mowing time, and this whole video is 7 minutes and 24 seconds. So shoot, doesn't get much more efficient than that. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of an interesting little number crunch. 'Cause I was a little confused there for a second. I was like, how am I mowing so much more this year compared to last year, but still making less money? And then, it's like, well, it's because a lot of these folks paid a couple months ago. I mean, so they're not paying now, and so that's why. So all is not lost. We're doing great. Actually, financially, doing much better this year compared to last year. As far as like earnings goals, I don't really like to talk about numbers, like hard numbers, as you guys know. I prefer to deal in percentages. But our savings goals this year compared to last year, we're 2 months ahead of schedule. I'm really grateful to God for that. It's kind of amazing in this time of financial uncertainty that we're doing as well as we're doing in that area. Of course, as of this recording, the governor's just started to lay out his plan for reopening the state of Maryland, and seems like he's kind of hopeful that we're just going to start moving that direction beginning in May, which I think is great. I mean, if I was not working, I wouldn't like it at all, but since I am working, I'm just choosing to not have an opinion on that particular part. Good Lord, man. If I was one of these people staying home, I'd probably be one of those protesters. But this is Randy with Dolan Cut and Trim. I just wanted to show you some mowing footage and talk to you guys about those numbers. I thought it was interesting, and was hoping you think it was interesting as well. Have a good one.